Hi, everybody. So today I have a special guest on the podcast today, and I wanted to share just a little bit about Eric first. Eric, first of all, what up?
What's up?
um, so so Eric, okay, so you're a civil
I'm a
engineer.
I'm a
I'm
civil
like,
engineer.
what is that? Does mean you are civilized
I'm civilized.
in
Well,
engineering?
technically, yeah. So I'm a
Okay.
civil engineer in the engineering sense. I went to school to study everything that doesn't move, and so a house is a civil engineer. But once it starts moving, it goes mechanical, electricity, the stuff you don't see, I don't touch.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so that's me by trade. I grew up working in construction. Um, I initially was trying to avoid engineering, but it ended up working out
Okay.
to where I kind of channeled that growing up in construction, working on my hands and stuff into that field. But I jumped through 4 or 5 majors before I actually landed on that one. But yeah, that's another podcast for
Yeah.
another day.
Look, I was a
Um,
5 year student because I couldn't.
five and a half,
Oh, see,
five and a
we're just
half,
on the
and,
same
and I'm
page.
eating good. 5 and a half, I'm still eating good. They shamed me back then,
Yeah,
but
they did shame it. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought I would be doing private sector engineering. That was my goal. I'm gonna build superstructures, bridges, but ended up in the public sector and climbed the engineering ladder into what is referred to as city county management.
Okay.
I got my master's in public administration and government, and so I love government. I love
I
kingdom,
was just gonna say, like, I know you're a
and
government leader.
that's how I landed in that particular path.
Okay.
Um,
So
mhm,
because you mentioned to me before, like in a small town in Carolina. I always get the
mhm.
North Carolina.
North
North,
Carolina, no
okay.
Kakalaki.
Whoa. What is
I
that?
hadn't said that in like 15 years, but yeah, North Carolina.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then also, which I think is really dope, is that you're creative
I
as
am.
well and
Yep.
keeping that alive
Hmm.
and like heavy on the fitness flex. Like, kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Big kudos to you.
Trying to live to see 120.
Okay.
You
One,
know,
all
that's what we're
right.
trying to do.
All right, Moses. So, um, okay, so we need to kind of
You can tell
share.
I'm churchy. You can tell I grew up in the church. I got plenty of church jokes. Uh,
Okay, Eric, how would
grab
you say that we've met?
social media,
Yeah, that's crazy.
pandemic. I think I saw a video of you leading worship
Hmm.
or singing. Um, and that's how I ended up following you. Um,
See, I thought it was different.
how do we do it?
And I think it
What?
was before the pandemic
What?
because so I interviewed you for Black Christian influencers.
You did?
Yes. Yes. And it
You
was before
did?
COVID. See, that's why you got to ask
Yes.
people.
Jeez. So
Like,
that's how
what?
you came up. So that's how you came up on my social media.
Okay.
Okay.
Because yeah, so we
Yeah.
were part of this organization called BCI. So the
BCI.
owner, Jackie, who I went to high school and college with, which is
Yeah.
so dope to like see her in the growth that she's created. She had me doing these Monday motivationals where I interviewed like different influencers. And so I think you were one of the first influencers that I interviewed. Now,
Hmm.
what we talked about, I couldn't tell you because I just did a lot of them for a certain period of time, but that's where I met you. Still social media,
Yes.
but yeah, that way
And did.
and did. And so
Charge it
I
to my
don't,
mind, not to my heart.
it's okay. It's okay. I am charging it, but it's all good. I'll take it out of your pay of this podcast. No, he's graciously doing this for free. Um, so I think that I'm trying to think when BCI started. It was
Yeah.
before it was
It was
so it
17, 16, 17, 18, right?
oh no, it wasn't
16.
that far. No. Oh my goodness. I think
So I
it was
remember
like
seeing it at the conference.
2019.
I was introduced into it. I was introduced to it okay, so that was the first year
Mhm.
because I went to YLA and that's where I went to the young leaders conference, and that was
Okay.
when I found out BCI existed.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then I
Okay.
went to Millions that year too, and I met somebody that was with BCI.
Okay.
It was Ashley. Um, but anyway,
Okay. But now we're on the same
church
page.
world small.
Yes. But it's been at least 4 years
It
of
has.
following each other on social media, which is so crazy about social media, how you can just learn and get to observe, say like a lot about someone. And
Hmm.
so from that, over the past few years, getting to see you, I'm like, he's just really driven. He's a really driven dude. Of course, like this is like what I see, but it's this consistent thing, whether you being encouraging or setting goals and just like it is what it is. And so I just noticed that like over time. And so when deciding to do this season of the podcast with all the trending conversations around high value men and all that and high value women, um, okay, so even say, with the late Kevin Samuels and all, he had a lot to say,
Yes.
and other people had a lot to say, a lot of information that I personally thought like this is good to know and to be able to self-reflect and all that. And then some of the stuff I'm like, this is kind of cray cray. And it was very
Yeah.
discouraging, but like some of it also wasn't biblical. And so as much advice as he was giving, like some stuff, I'm like, this doesn't even pertain to
Hmm.
me or pertain to certain people because of his, view on life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I was just thinking through different episodes and you came to mind. So thanks for saying yes to
Thank
this
you.
episode. So I have a couple icebreakers that I wanted to ask you. One was how did we meet? Now he remembers how we met. So now I feel like I already know the answer. So name a car that describes you best.
Hmm. The card that describes me best.
If you were to, yeah, use a car.
I think, yeah, we did talk about this. My dream car is a Porsche Panamera. That is where I live, and I think I'm a good balance between sporty and luxury and utility
Okay.
because I need a hatchback.
Yes.
Right now, I drive a pickup, and I was like, I need to get me a sedan, man. And so,
Yes.
and that's the chosen one. I had a sedan a while ago, and I was rear-ended, lost it in a little car bender.
Hmm.
But I honestly just would like a hatchback kind of nice sedan. And so
Okay.
I think that's me. Uh,
Okay. That's what you would
yeah,
describe.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to say that. That's a good metaphor. Yeah,
Okay.
good
And
dig
that's
into that
pretty
one.
dope.
But yeah,
Like I got into a pretty bad accident January 30th but mine was a Ford Fusion, so very different.
hmm.
Very different than your car, but that's pretty dope. And so, okay, so where are you from?
From North Carolina. Um, North Carolina, born and raised on a playground where I used to spend most of my days. Um, that is where I'm from. I am from a small town, and I make that French joke because I always live vicariously through these TV shows that were in bigger cities.
Okay.
So I'm originally from a town called Bear Creek, North Carolina.
Hmm.
It sounds it's as big as it sounds,
Okay.
and I always try to mention that. because I used to hide that a little bit, just a
Okay.
smidget, and say I was from Durham, which is the closest place to the place that I feel like I really grew up, which is Roxborough, North Carolina, which is north of Durham in the Raleigh
Okay.
Durham area, North Carolina. And so um, that's where I'm from the
Okay.
sticks, a little
Okay.
southern. Yeah.
So I guess name three things that you love about your hometown, but you can also include Durham if you like.
hmm the three things I love about my hometown. The number one thing I love is my family. My family in both of my hometowns are all kind of co-located in the same little area. And so on my dad's side, we grew up, my last name is Marsh. We grew up on Mill Marsh Road. That's my great grandfather's road, farming
Mm,
town, just putting houses on the land. And my mom was in Roxborough, where I spent all majority of my childhood. Family again, my mom's last name. I'm giving out too much of my personal info. Cats be out here like
right.
knowing
Social
how to get
security.
into mom's maiden name. Uh
So what town and
yeah.
your first name and your
Yeah, it
last
was
name?
like
Okay.
yeah, and all my family lived in the same spot to the point that, the joke was like, where y'all? I mean, I'm going on that out to Hesterville because my mom maiden name was Hester. And so all of us lived on the same little stretch of road, go up, make a right. It's gonna be more Hester go this way and has an O'Brien's, but they married the Hesters, and that's just how it was. And so my number one thing would be family. Um, Second thing would be nature. I grew up fishing. Um, I went home for my childhood best friend. We went on, had a little mini fishing trip over at the lake, a place that we didn't have access to as kids just because of like race and all these other kind of
Mm,
things. Didn't even have a public pool in my hometown. You
that's
know,
a whole different
that's a whole
conversation
nother thing,
about
right?
being in North Carolina as a Black man.
Yeah, and so we had a little rented a house on the lake, and here we are riding on the boat, looking at his house, like, dang, bro, like people really eating good out here in the country. Meanwhile, we
Mm,
did not know this existed growing up,
yeah.
you know. Um, and I would say the third thing um would be the country way of life. You know, I um I love my humble beginnings, and I continue to live humbly because you don't need all that stuff.
Mm,
You don't. You don't need a lot to be happy. You don't need a lot.
mm,
And the world try to tell you different. Social media try to tell you different. Everybody try to tell you different. And if you fall into that thing, you'll find yourself climbing a ladder and get to the top and be like, did I even want to be here?
yeah.
Which was the realization I had back in 2015.
Mm,
Like, why do I want all this stuff? For what?
right.
And so I would say those are the three things that I love most. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric, oh, and I know I never said his last name, but I'm glad you said. So introducing Eric Marsh, right? Round of applause. So,
Yeah.
you shared, some of your background and how you grew up. I guess how has how did you grow up? How has it impacted you today as a man?
Um, Today as a man, um, today as a black man, growing up in a country town where, you know, your uncle tells you stuff like you get a flat tire on this road, you ride the rim home. I don't care. We'll
Wow.
buy you another tire, but
Mm,
don't you get stuck on the side of the road off this highway. And so, you know, um, and that's the equivalent of living in the city when you got cops around, they say your number one job is to make it home. But the country
wow.
equivalent is like you ride the rim home. The end. Because you ain't gonna I ain't gonna do not be out here on 119 changing a tire. Ride the rim home,
Wow.
buy you another tire, go buy a new rim.
And this is the 90s
Yeah.
and 2000, really
It's the
2000s,
90s. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because we're the same age, right? You're 30, you just turned 36.
I just turned 36. Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So really
Yeah.
driving you. That had to be
Hmm.
that, which
Yeah.
is
But it's
crazy.
just, you move through the South, it's hot spots, certain things. You see flags flying. I remember, um, Dixie horns on trucks with Confederate flags on a post on the tail end of the back corner of the tail bed, you know, and it's more than Dukes of Hazard.
Yeah. So those things
So yeah,
impact.
that.
Okay.
And so that, and then my mom and dad not being together. My
Okay.
dad kind of falling out of my life through like halfway through middle school. We recently connected. We recently reconnected when he just kind of called me. We had a soft reconnection like 2016. But for instance, every year, I used to be mad and I would call and then be like, but then maybe like 8 years ago, I started being very proactive. Like even if he doesn't pick up the phone, I'll call. You
Hmm.
know, but this Father's Day, it's the first Father's Day since I was probably like 12 that I actually spoke to my dad on the phone on Father's Day
Wow.
and wished him a happy Father's Day. And he says, "Man, I love you. I'm proud of you." That's the first
Wow.
time, but
Mhm.
he said that to me before, but on Father's Day, like after my birthday is on the 10th, Father's Day was on Juneteenth,
Se
I think, or
se
like,
7,
or whatever, the
yes.
next week. The next
Yeah.
week, my birthday always comes before Father's Day. And it's always been this weird thing because I would like not get a happy birthday and then I would still reach out, say happy
Yeah.
Father's Day, and then I gotta answer, you know.
Mm.
But you know, but those things about how I was raised, my family just having very strong beliefs.
Mhm.
Um,
So can I pause you for a second? Because
mhm.
I just feel like that is monumental of
Yeah,
an like, how does that make you feel really all week because it just happened?
yeah. And here's the thing, I was like, he called me,
Right.
and he called me.
Mm.
He called me on Father's Day to tell me he loved me.
Yeah.
I didn't call him on Father's Day to tell him Happy Father's Day. I
Yeah.
told him Happy Father's Day afterwards. But I had intent on, I was like, I'll call him this evening.
Mhm.
But he called me on the way to church.
Wow.
And that's a struggle for me. That's a big
Mhm.
struggle for me. And when it comes to my own identity, in Christ, and even when I came into the awareness of who I am in Christ, it still was a tension between that and calling, how do I make these two things overlap?
Yeah.
Um, but through my spiritual journey, I was able to take on the mantle of sonship, which
Mm.
helped me a lot because I realized, you go through different phases in life. Was he the best at? No, but he wasn't that. Some didn't have one at all. And
Mm.
even in his absence, I learned a lot about the father-son dynamic. But when I took ownership of my role as a son,
Mm.
it healed me from the standpoint of where I was in that fatherlessness
Mhm.
thing. It helped me to walk that healing out. I would say that it wasn't instantaneous, but it helped me to walk that thing out in the sense that I started being there for him. And I remember, um, I'm a dreamer. Um, and so I remember having this dream one night out of nowhere.
Mm.
Um, and I was at a church. This is when I had left ministry. It was in 2000. I was in full-time ministry at that point. So it was in 2015. So I remember visiting them. We reconnected, and then maybe like 4 or 5 months later, I had this dream, and I was preaching at a church. Actually, I was praying, before the preacher, whatever, after worship, praying.
Okay.
And my dad was in the back of the church. He came in and sat down. Um, and the harder I prayed, he would get up and move up one pew, move up one pew, move one pew. But
Mm.
when I stopped, he would stand up and he would move back a pew. He would move back a pew. He would move back. And so I just took on the ownership of just praying for him, covering in prayer, and figuring out how I could support him. Um, because praying is for somebody is free.
Mhm.
There's no heartbreak when it comes to, I call on God on his behalf. I ain't got to
Yeah.
work. I know God gonna pick up the phone, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
And
That's
so
good.
that's how I ended up walking that out. It's a lot more to it, but in some, that's the position I took. And that helped me so much because I was no longer upset that when he didn't call, but in the moments that we did talk, it allowed me to be way more grateful and
Yeah.
to be like, how's everything been going, man? I was dealing with this the other week and but now it's worked out. I was like, man, I thought about him the other week. I prayed for him the other week,
Yeah.
and I never let him know I was praying for him like that and covering him. But my family on that side knew that though. They knew that I still carried him in my heart.
Mhm.
Um, and I still saw myself as being a representation of the better parts of him
Yeah.
as I navigate just the world and my career and stuff. And I'm very intentional telling them that, you may have not been around to water the seed, but you sowed it. Other
Yeah.
people watered it along the way, but that's biblical. One man sows, another man waters.
Yeah.
But
You
you
wouldn't
reap.
expect it from have like a meeting with parents, but it
Yeah.
happens. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I resonate with a lot of that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I call like we don't have my dad and I, we don't have a super like connected relationship. It was definitely on and off for his presence in my sisters and I's lives. And then it just
Yeah.
was this space for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's had its ebbs and it's had its flows, but um even when I know like this is not my responsibility, um, God, like just call him or pray for him. And sometimes I'm like, I can't take that on right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna have to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
But getting to talk to him, I'm not gonna lie if he ever listens to this. But it sometimes just out of obedience is just like a check off the list
Yeah.
that, I was obedient and just calling him.
That's how it be.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna get a lot out of this conversation because it's gonna be, you know,
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously about him, but it's okay. I was obedient.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you even saying that you praying for him and those things, how it impacted you, it's made you a better man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has because it's important. Um, you healed or not, and this is on any subsect of your life, any category or whatever. So often we compartmentalize, but this stuff can be cancerous because at the end of the day, no matter how much you compartmentalize, you are one person with one soul, with
Yeah.
one spirit, and one
Mhm.
body, and you got one life.
Right.
And you can pretend that you got this alter ego and you got work life, this, that, and then you got your life with your dad and you got your life with your dad, but it's all connected. But I found when I started working through that and I started uprooting that and pulling it out, I found that there were several areas in my life, even the places that I was most successful, like playing basketball, you know,
Mm.
most
I didn't
successful.
know you played basketball.
I was negatively motivated.
Mm.
And so I was doing it because he wasn't there. I was
Okay.
still good, you know, but it to give a imagery to it, you know, you can have an apple that's pretty on the outside and bite into it, it's rotten on the out. Pretty on the outside, you bite into it, it's rotten on the inside.
Mhm.
When you're negatively motivated, it just throws off the quality of the fruit.
Mm. Yeah. No, that's good.
You just throw that same fruit in the blender, add some sugar, that's cool, but you still got to add something to it to make that thing work.
Right.
And I realized that some of the fruit in my life was not necessarily as grade A as I thought because I
Mhm.
wasn't all right. I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that to even impact me wanting a family because I didn't want to impart that into my son.
Yeah.
Because we all are we all carry a future generation inside of us when it comes to having children. It's just not a
Yeah.
kid. That's the next generation, the next
Yeah,
iteration of your family.
for sure.
And you can't, even in a spiritual sense, you can't, they start where you stopped.
Mhm. Yep. And so, depending on where you stopped is, they could either be a little further ahead
Yeah.
or, have to catch up with,
Yeah.
people around them. And
Mm-hmm.
so like I guess with this, um first, like how do you I know I've said this, but do you feel like that you um he's making a face. Do you feel like that you are a high value man?
Yes.
Dang, he said that right away.
Yes.
Okay, so what is your definition of a high value man?
I have been praying about this.
Okay. Is that why you've been fasting on
I have been
Wednesdays?
fasting and praying for how can I give this? But the thing is
Mhm.
and I hear the conversation so much, and it's not biblical, right? But it's hard for it to be biblical in the sense that high value man was not a term in the Bible.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
wasn't, but I think about where I am and how I got to where I am and the ways that I have evolved. And but I would say yes, I
Yeah.
am. And
When you just said like it's not in the Bible, it made me think of but valor is, And so, you know,
the specific phrase is not. And so
mhm,
I look to Jesus. I look to Jesus.
mhm,
Whenever I'm like, who, I start with Jesus. And I see it in Jesus,
yeah.
when it
Okay.
comes to what I now look at it as
Mhm.
and believe it to be. Um and I think it's an approach to life, um more than a destination too.
Yeah.
Um so
I was
valor,
listening.
yeah.
Oh, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
What were you listening to?
So I was listening to this relationship, coach, and I believe he's a believer. And so he was saying he doesn't really use the term high value man because a lot of times it's attached for a man to like money or like um what else did you say, money or
Yep.
having to be measured off of what they do. And so he started saying like he prefers to use the word a high quality man. And do you think that there's a difference? Like, I know this is his words and his opinion, but would you say there's a difference
Yeah.
in, yeah? And
So quality is a measure. Like I'm a metrics guy. I'm a techie. Quality is a measure, and it's a general sense. And so to me, value, the price is what you pay, the value is what you get.
mhm,
Like you go and you buy something, you pay, but the value is what you get.
okay.
And so to me, um, being an asset is as much as you're getting more than you pay for.
Yeah.
Being a high
Okay.
value, being a person of high value is like I'm unequivocally giving more than what you're paying.
Mhm.
And I see that in Jesus.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I see that in Jesus. Jesus paid the price, right?
Yeah.
But and he tells us it, but he brings a value to us that looks way different than what we look at as high value. Because um I was telling one of my friends, because I talked this through with one of my oldest, my big spiritual sister, not my blood sister, but she's super wise. Women are generally way wiser than
They're
us.
not. telling any lies, but
Yeah, way wiser. Um,
not all the time, but
yeah, and like there's a way you go about it that is not the way um the world goes about it. And so the number one thing I saw in Jesus is that he did not remind us at every turn that he paid a price.
yeah.
You know what I did for you? Because he had like it wasn't a mindset, it was a state of being for him.
Yeah.
And he was so okay that he was unbothered that you didn't even want what he had.
Because you know what
Right.
he brought.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
knew what he brought to such a level that he was unoffended.
Hmm.
He was unoffendable. He got upset about things,
Hmm.
solved problems with things, presented these problems as opportunities to all these people that he crossed, but if you are high value and you are still easily offended by people who don't see you, then I'm like, come on now. Let's
Mm.
because you gotta know. Like, and even in your my faith walk, and I think this is something that has really contributed to me getting to where I am in life and career and stuff. I feel like I've transitioned in many ways from believing to knowing.
Mm.
And that's faith. That's all in the thing of faith. Faith is this thing, but you can believe, but do you know? And I'm like, I know God has me.
Mm.
Like I know this. And because I know there's certain stuff I just won't do.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's dope.
and I think one of the most important things that you can see in Jesus is that, he is the differing between those boundaries and rules. And so there are certain things he's like, yeah, I can't do that. These boundaries are inward, rules are outward. And so you can
Mhm.
say, um, I don't accept this from somebody. Oh, that's cool. But you set a boundary on this is a place I'm not going to go. But someone who's of high value is not going to put all these rules on people around them to make them conform to how they is. It's like, I'm not going to make you change, but I'm going to say there's only one way to get to the Father, and that's through this brother.
Yeah.
And so, in that, to me, that's his unoffendableness. That's him recognizing what he brings to the table, and recognizing the value of that thing. And what he does is continues to talk about the benefit of it and be a light from a positive space instead of making it something that you use to beat people down with, which is what a lot of people have done when it
To a
comes to
lot of
being,
people.
being that idea of being a high value person.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, very condemning, at times when it
mhm,
comes even specifically to men and how men, are
yeah,
viewed, often even by definitely women and even in men's spaces because it sells well to edify women and not as
yeah.
much with men, but thankfully that's changing. What's the circle that you keep around you? Like, do you have guys that think this same way? Some may be Christians and so on a spiritual mindset, but just community different, or you kind of are on your own in
No,
this.
I don't. I'm not a lone wolf. That's definitely something that I've been intentional, and that's one thing that I think has contributed a lot to me getting to where I am. Is I stopped saying, "Oh man, I'm the only one thing like." I'm like, nah. If I know this to be true, then yeah, like
Nobody else
I
does.
love to say to my friends that all my guys are straight. Like they good, married or unmarried.
That's good.
They all legit. They all straight, and we
That's
talk
good.
for real. Like we talk about life, we talk about money, we talk about politics. And because we spent all this time talking about that for the last 5 years, now we talk about golf because and we talk about the better things of life, because we've worked through these different things. And to me, I keep I may be cool with a lot of people, you know, but I believe in having a no joke team,
Mm,
um, and people that will go to war with you, you know, and will be those brothers that are built for adversity, like the Bible says, a brother is built for times of adversity.
mm.
Like I got my guys, you know,
Yeah.
and I go out the way. You know, some of them are don't even know they're my guys.
Mm,
So my guy told he anytime we talk, you know, we might talk once a quarter, once every 2 months or whatever. Most of it through social media, but if I can get out to LA, I'm gonna call this guy
mhm,
the end
mhm.
because I know he's chasing his dreams, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and my guy Chris in DC, you know, but am super intentional about that. And I'm just like in your podcast, and you say no new friends. You're talking about the friend zone. My friend zone go for the girls and the guys. Uh, like, I, if we're not, because we can't, man, we got to roll. We don't have
Mhm.
as much time as we think,
I know. At
um,
some point.
and we got to use it. We got to
I
use
didn't
it.
know you listened to my podcast.
Yeah, come on now.
Look, I really don't know until someone like says something. So,
You
hey,
know, yeah, yeah.
no.
Like, you know, it's important that we find ourselves, even in friendship, like guys, friendship, you find yourselves equally yoked. Um,
Mhm.
and I saw this. I like whenever I see something in the Bible, I try to look at that stuff from a practical sense, you know. And you know, they say if a horse can pull 2,000 pounds, and your mind says you if you yoke that horse to another horse that pulls 2,000 pounds, they're gonna pull 4,000 pounds. But
Mhm.
that's not true. What happens is these two horses will work together and pull exponentially more than
Mm.
2,000 pounds
Yeah.
because they're pushing each other, they're pulling each other, and a
That's
healthy,
good.
they're trying to prove each other right into being who they know that themselves to be. And so if you're not equally yoked with somebody, you're gonna break that dude's neck. Like,
Mm.
and I've decided to live a certain way when it comes to the velocity, and vigilance that I go. That's a alliteration. That's a preacher. Two V's. That's not good. But anyway, the velocity and the vigilance that I go about my life, you know.
It's
But
all good.
there's a certain way that I've decided to go, and I've thought it was a way. I used to use the way that I live now as a whole, and like as a consistent way, as a way to get me out or trouble. Because
Mm.
I always
Mhm.
knew like this is a certain way. Like, if stuff go right, this is what I gotta do. I gotta be praying. I gotta be found. I gotta be working out. I gotta be clearing my mental state. I need to not be picking up my phone and looking at my phone first thing in the morning. I need to shut it down by 9 o'clock. I need to do certain stuff. I don't need to be out in the streets. You know, I need to go to bed. Like I would do that stuff to recover, but it's like, dang, bro, if you start living from that space,
Pretty
and
lonesome,
Lord be like, yo,
pretty
Lord,
isolated.
yeah, the Lord be like, if you, it's isolated, but it creates space to grow and be dynamic. And so once I took it
Mm.
on,
I
it
see what you're
was a
saying.
barrier. It was
Hmm.
a barrier to me connecting with people. Once I started walking out, I'm like, golly, more peace, more this, more that. And now I connect more organically. I got more friends than I ever had, you know?
Yeah. At a different measure of
Yeah.
quality and what you guys bring to each
Yeah.
other.
Because this dude's out here that are like serious.
Mm. So I mentioned this to you before. So
Mhm.
I know that my predominant audience is women, and it's men too, but it's definitely more women. So even even just in observing what you're saying, there are different things that you're saying, because this podcast, like this season, I specifically wanted to be clear on like not being afraid to say and publicly say like this is something that I desire a relationship, I desire marriage. And the response has been just people being able to be honest as well about how they feel and not being embarrassed. And so even as you're talking and knowing that audience, I hope that people can hear, even though it's not bullet points, different things that you're saying of like what
Yeah.
you value. And so you value
Yeah.
your time, um, excuse me, and you value what you put into your body, and you value your relationship with God and your community. Like, so just
Yeah.
being able to think through if, say, someone is not sure what that say looks like, or how to, even with a guy that may not be there, how to like obtain that. These are just some
Yeah.
really good ways that you're saying, without the bullet points, but like these are
Uh-huh.
things that I can take from this.
Yeah. You can't be high value without having values. And that's one thing you learn in business. If you get a startup, you do your pitch deck, you want to if you want to build a company, you want to build an enterprise or whatever, you need to have your core, you need to have your pillars, your modus operandi. It has to be like, you should be able to articulate what you value, and it should
Mm,
come out in certain things. And I'm not talking about affirmations, but there should be certain mantras that even come about that, you can say, this is what I believe, you know,
mm,
and you should be able to, you should work towards, because, excuse me, you should work towards um, continuously clarifying that and knowing when to drop one and pick up another one, because values are the things that you keep at the forefront of your mind. I believe through seasons, in seasons and out of seasons. But once it becomes a strong habit, then it's not something you necessarily need to talk about. It comes into how you are.
mm.
And so you spend less time talking about those things once it becomes a piece of you, naturally. But if you're going to keep going to the next level, you need to know, what is the next season require me, and that's the thing that has to be at the forefront. Um, but your core values are the things that, family, your faith, all these different things. Those are the pillars, of it.
Mhm.
But it looks different from season to season as you set new priorities.
Yeah.
And I call them breakthrough objectives. You know, the same thing I do on work, I do on my personal life,
Mm.
when it comes to the vision for my life and the things. But you have to be able to know when to adjust that. And that's not just from a practical sense, because I've actually worked myself into some holes, into some ruts, and got myself really off track, sticking to some plan that I built and created.
Mm.
The most important thing is you need to make sure that that stuff is in sync with what God calls you to do for your life, and that you are walking with Him.
Yeah.
You are fully responsible for all the things that you do in the plan that you put together for you, yourself alone, without Him. And don't be mad
When it don't work
when you reap.
out. Yeah. Um,
um, yeah.
no, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to switch gears, because
Yeah.
I think we've laid a pretty good foundation
Mm-hmm.
of values of just like what it is to be like a high value man. I'll say also like a high valor and a high quality, those
Mm-hmm.
different things. And so I would love to switch gears into like singlehood, and even like from a male perspective, because I don't like like almost all my friends are married men. So I hear a lot from them, and then a lot of them have been married for a really long time. So their like mindset is so different. They can come from a space of being a man and being a Christian, but like they don't know nothing about the singlehood life.
Yeah.
So I would love to kind of talk about that if you're cool with it.
Yeah.
So you were talking about these different values and that are important to you. When it comes to men, whether Christian men or non-Christian men, do you think that most men see their bodies as value? And so this is why I say this. So as
Good question.
because so growing up in church, which I have, and When I say Christian women and Christian girls, we hear about value like
Yeah.
our entire lives and about what doesn't make you valuable. People may, some people for sure use this will not make you valuable, but also it's just like it's precious, your body is precious and that kind of stuff. And I just remember having conversations in college with guys who just were just cool sleeping around. They would just share with me like, oh yeah, this girl and this girl. And I'm like, nigga, don't you care about your penis? Just like just
Mm,
being anywhere, like, do you even see yourself this way
yeah.
too? And so I just always felt like it's just very, I'm like, I think, yes, women for sure we need to learn and grow and continue to grow in like what we value. Well, I'm like, I don't think a lot of men like see their body like as valuable things as well. But
Yeah.
again, that's me. So I would love to hear, like, do you think this that men see themselves that way?
I think a majority of men, if not, I think a majority of men see their bodies as being valuable, but not necessarily value. And so there is a
Mm,
demand. There is a demand. You know, we know we need to be strong. We know we need to be to defend. We need to, need to be able to throw hands when stuff hit the fan. We know we need to be able to protect, provide. We know this, right? But I don't think that most men intentionally walk in a place of value. You know,
mm,
because if so, then we would have you have there we would do better, especially as Black men with mental health. Um, we would do better in the space of wholeness and holiness. Which
mhm.
are you know depending on where you're at in your life, you're a different phase. And so yeah, and watching, even watching what you eat and working out. Like if you really knew that you only had one body, then you would make
Mm.
different decisions. And if you really knew you
Get you
carried
too.
a generation in you, then you would go about it. You would go about everything in your life more differently. You
Yeah.
know, from your alcohol intake to sleeping around, um, because you just. I'm thankful I don't have kids. Um, I'm very thankful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I, praise God. Praise God,
I get
because
you. Mm-hmm.
like, and to be able to know and to be able to walk in this awareness of who I am, why I'm here, um, and what I've inherited, both curses and blessings generationally. To
Mm-hmm.
be able to walk in a deep understanding of that, I'm ready to have kids now.
Mm. That's good.
So many people have stepped into that just from not, you know, respect, not you mentioned this sex and stuff like that, not being intentional in that space.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and it just leads to more of what we got,
Yeah.
you
So
know.
from your perspective as a man,
Mm-hmm.
um, what would you say when it comes to women? Of okay, I'm trying to articulate what I'm trying to say. I guess from a male perspective, what is it that guys think of when it comes to a woman that values herself? Is it the same in reference like to you're holding yourself, to a standard? Do you hold her or like that standard for her needs to be like higher?
Does her standard need to be higher?
Yes, and you know what? And I'm not being clear. Does her standard need to be higher when it comes physically to valuing her body, or would you say the same? Just from a male, because just
Oh
heard
well,
all
I
the
think I think I think that thing already high. It depends on what woman you talk to. Um,
well,
And
I
so,
just okay, go
yeah,
ahead. No, I'm
but
gonna let you go.
yeah, I think you all already carry yourselves at a high standard. The women I meet, and I think everybody's somewhere on the spectrum, like, value or whatever. Um, I do think more men need to be saying no. I think we can learn a lot from you all because I think y'all say no when somebody ain't. If you ain't with it, you say no.
So the double standard
Um,
thing, that's not a thing for you. Of
um,
like, oh, okay, so I was listening to this video cast or whatever you want to call them, vidcast. This was just a few days ago,
I get
and
what
it
you
might have
mean.
been over the weekend. So I forget what the name is called, but I listened to it because um I someone that I follow, Tim Ross. So he like I feel like now his name has become like this living room home name, but he has this podcast called The Basement. So it goes viral a lot, but Tim, he for years has been one of the overseers at our church. So for years, like Tim has come to our church, like all like it's funny because a lot of the stuff he's the same, but anyway, so he and some other guy named Jeremy Anderson, who I guess also is like a speaker and talks about relationships and stuff. They were on this just regular podcast, which was like, I'm gonna have to send it to you. It was like so good. And then like once it got closer to the end of the podcast, the two co-hosts, they started sharing about how they started sharing like about body count and that like and so Tim's asking like, okay, so if you have 50 100 women, you know I think the guy was like, I'm just looking for somebody like under 5 or under, and he was like, okay. And like the guy's rationale was, and again, they're not believers, but I'm like, but this is culture. This is, because there were men
Yeah,
also in the room that got to just kind of be the audience. But he was saying, like, if I have an area of brokenness, then the two of us can't be coming together and having to work on the same thing. It was like, in my opinion, I could tell Tim wanted to say so much more, but he just said that is stupid. Like, but again, it's just a matter of a lot of conversations that I just hear guys that it's just
so
double
basically, I mean,
standards.
everybody should be trying to marry up. Like, I'm joking, but
I don't
to me, it doesn't matter. To me, there is no double standard.
when it comes to, and I'm
To
saying
me,
this
I
stuff when
don't.
it comes to value, when we're looking at people or looking at someone that we're, I guess, holding people, I guess in a way that,
Yeah, well,
okay.
there is a double standard that exists in the world, and especially in the Christian community. You put the weight on women, but
Mhm,
I'm of the I'm of the opinion that can't nobody be saved for you. Nobody.
mhm,
No man can be saved for you. No woman can be saved for you. Like, and then, end of the day, um, especially when it comes to like sex and all that stuff, somebody saying yes is not your fault. It's your fault if you
mm,
if you partake. You did it,
yeah, consensually.
and so stop being like that. You know,
Yeah,
um, because they say Eve. I mean, people. I mean, church. Golly, they go all of that. They'd be like Adam and Eve, and Eve did this, and it's like he could have said no, and he could have been like, "Don't eat that."
that's I think about that all the time. Like, why didn't he tell her no? And then like,
Yeah. Did you communicate with her, bruh? Did you tell her?
mhm,
What did you tell her what God told you?
or just even, yeah,
You
ask
know,
a question like,
I'm
why are
sorry you gonna
you
do all this stuff, but in a practical sense, like, yo, no, bro. Like, come on, man. And if more people said no, we will have better quality out here in the world of everything.
yeah.
Um, because I'm not gonna take what comes to me anymore. I stopped taking what comes to me a long time ago.
Hmm.
Because I mean,
So,
I struggle with confidence, and I would just take what came to me.
mm,
But I'm not doing that anymore.
I was gonna ask you, in this, because when you said you went from like now you just know
Hmm.
who you are and that confidence, and of
Hmm.
course confidence, it exudes. But I was gonna ask you, one of like any insecurities and what those might have been that you overcame to be in this headspace and this person.
Um, Knowing what I know, like just coming to the realization of knowing what I know in a practical sense of on the job. Um, I recently, I've been in situations where I'm like, yeah, I love this job. This ain't gonna work. And I go to quit. And the manager be like, please don't quit on this. And I'm like, well, well, what it's gonna take? Well, this is what it's gonna take. There you go.
Mm,
Some people don't even know. Like they think their perspective is like, this that job. I gotta make sure. I'm like, no, I'll get another job. I know I can get another job.
mhm,
I know I can get another job.
mhm.
I can't get another life.
Yeah.
And I came to that crossroads through taking what was given to me, for years. In 2015, I ended up going to the doctor. I was like, what is wrong? I'm appetite, you know, I was going to the doctor, hair patches on my beard, like patches on my beard, stress, all this kind of
Mm,
stuff, and my doctor was like, Eric, we have to do some tests, you know, and the most disgusting test ever. When they think you have stomach ulcers, they need a poo sample. And so
mhm.
yeah, this is where your life gets when
Yeah.
you're stressed out. You're doing invasive tests.
Yeah.
Found out stomach ulcers. And my doctor's like, he's like, I'm not a therapist. And he's like, I'm gonna make a prescription. And he continues to be my doctor now. And he was my doctor for like 5 years, and I consider him to be a friend. At this point in life, I bumped into him out and about at a music concert 2 weeks ago. And I was like, Dr. Bell, what up? He's a black dude. He's like, hey, he says, good to see you and good to not see you. And that's what he always says
Right.
every time I see him, because I'll, whatever. But I had stomach ulcers, and he's like, look, um, he's married, 3 kids, just got to a good place in life. He's like, Eric, you're not gonna make it like this,
Wow.
and he's like, you can't change your job, but you can change your environment, you can change you. And at
Mm,
this point, you need to make changes, because how it's affecting you, you're not going to make it. And I quit my job 2 months. 2 months after that, I had that conversation. I quit my job.
mm.
Yeah, we had that job in late September, early November. I was out.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you
Yeah,
for like, no,
with no,
I'm not about to lose my life.
and that was before I knew I could get a job. I had no job.
Okay.
I ended up working. I ended up going in a full-time ministry. Did that for about a year, and then worked my way back into the government space. But that was a great turn. It was one of the most powerful turning points in my life, when it says,
Mm,
no, I'm not. No, no.
yeah.
If it's you or me, it's that if it comes to death, it's gonna be me. Well,
Right.
I'm gonna be the one living. The end.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good.
And even I gotta find a job and not the job. I'm out.
Yeah.
But what it does is it builds a certain. What it does, that's the beginning of building what I think makes you high value, and that's like you have to operate at a certain level of excellence with your life,
Mm,
with your work, to be able to ride the ebbs and flows of life, employment, all these different things. You got to constantly, and I'm not saying this like to be hyper. Oh God, you got to no, like you have to consistently be
mm-hmm.
in a place of excellence. Because if you're operating from a place of excellence, you're going to make connections. You're going to meet people. You're going to have people send you job offers when you got a job. It's like, hey man, I'd love for you to come work for us. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm good where I'm at. But if you ever think, I would love for you to be more with me. If anything ever happened, you reach out,
Right.
because you're doing work, you're being seen, you're doing this, you present at a conference, you just, but you have to, that's a place you got to live from.
Yeah.
And when you live from this space, it allows you to ride the ebbs and flows of life. And people say, life be lifing. I'm like, yeah, life be lifing, but you're living. And if you're living and you're doing what you got to do, then the enemy got to deal with you. You ain't got to deal with him.
Mm. Yeah.
Y'all, he got to deal with me every morning. My
Mm.
feet hit the floor. Sorry, buddy. You know, like, and I am deep. I try to be hyper spiritual, but it is that simple. Like, you have to, when you get to a place of knowing, you say stuff way. Sometimes like, sorry, buddy, not today, man. Chill out.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna work no more.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
No, this is great. Because I think it's just helpful to, one, to see more into you, but also
mm-hmm.
of just like when you see like a confident guy who really, really, I don't at all believe that like everything is perfect. I
No,
no,
yeah,
I definitely do not live in this space of like I get everything right. And I'm always like, Lord, where's the ambition? I had to learn a different mindset because my ambition was being compared to other people. And I used to think that you couldn't grow into it.
mm-hmm.
And that it was freeing when I realized that, well, one, stop comparing, and that you can grow into certain spaces where you're just not as ambitious, but also see the fruit of your life that you probably are really ambitious in some areas. It's just that you're not being ambitious for yourself.
Yeah,
And so, like, take that same energy and put it somewhere. But I think it just is great and it's refreshing
mm-hmm.
to just hear you and see you just really like that confidence of just
Yeah.
who you are. And I'm sure it wasn't always this easy to get up and
No,
just be like,
no, no.
we're not making excuses.
Mm-mm.
I'm sure people aren't, because I was like, man, I could feel even like he'd be like a good military person, like
Yeah,
no excuses,
no, but
point that.
it's not about perfection.
Hmm.
It's about excellence. A lot of people suffer from the spirit of perfectionism. It's two things I had to crucify
Mm,
in my spiritual walk: perfectionism, and it transition to excellence, and then my ambition.
mm.
I had to put that on the cross. I had to kill it. Um, because even when you mention ambition, so much of ambition is like this worldly measure. Like, against people doing this, they doing this. I gotta do this, gotta do
Right.
that. It's never ending.
Never.
Just do what you're supposed to do. Um, and even like you have a new business marketing, you can market, you can hire somebody to market, but you can do a click funnel, you can do all this stuff. You can have 1,000 people do market, you can reach 1,000 people,
Hmm.
but God can highlight you to one person.
Yeah.
I'll take the highlight over marketing any day,
Hmm.
because the two opportunities that I have now that are, to me, changed my life came because I was highlighted, not because I marketed myself. I was not being ambitious. I was not talking. I was doing. I was working, hands on the plow. And they was like, "Yo, I see that brother working all day. Hey, yo." I was like, "Yeah, man. I got an opportunity I'm in right now because I complain." I was like, "Yeah, man, I wish I had a little bit more of this." They was like, "Oh yeah, well, come check this out." I'm like, "Oh, word? Yeah, yeah, yeah."
Mm.
You know, um, and then that, like, perfectionism, it's not about being at 1,000 every single day. It's about getting up and doing what you can do. That's it. Some of
Mm.
my days are 20% days. I tell even my staff, my employees, at work, I don't need 100 like every day. I need you to live between 75 and 85.
Mm.
Because there's a certain thing, and I think all of us, I used to suffer from it, and this is the language I have. You can be too busy to get better.
Mm.
Because
Oh,
if you
for
don't allow
sure.
space for recovery, if you don't allow space for innovation, if you don't allow space to think, if you don't have space to breathe, you can run at that high speed, but at some time you're gonna run out of breath because your OT content in your blood is gonna go out and you're gonna pass out, your legs gonna go numb. Like, it's okay. That's
Yeah.
cool. But that is that place of like, nah, man, I know I'm bringing my best to the table every day.
Yeah.
I don't care if you say it's not my best. You may not understand it, but this is all I can do. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to bed because this work will be here tomorrow.
Mm.
And but when you're consistent, you can take a day, you can take a breather. You know,
Yeah.
I just really wish more people would not burden themselves with so hard with the thing that they're called to do in their work.
Mm.
It's a way to go about it in a healthy way.
This helpful. I already know. I'm like, that is
Yeah,
definitely me.
yeah. And
It's
so,
tiresome and it's
yeah,
emotionally draining
it eats you
for
up.
sure. Mm-hmm.
That thing that God has called you to do and asked you to do, it did not come to consume you. It came to propel you
Mm-hmm.
into destiny,
Yeah.
to set your kids up. But if that thing eats you alive and you don't live to see the age of 50,
Then for what?
so you
For
got
what?
congestive heart failure from stress,
Yeah.
not from overeating. Because I know cats that are hyper focused. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, bro, you're gonna work yourself into an early grave. You fit,
Yeah.
you that, but you're gonna work yourself into an early grave.
Yeah.
So it's a balance thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I just really believe that God, you can do more. You can do more with God by doing less than
Mm.
doing more. Like it sounds
For
weird.
sure. But the maths.
The I could
Like,
I tell you, and your faith change. Um, and I mean, once it clicked for me, you pray different.
mm,
You know, your I needs start to dissipate
mm,
when you start knowing that God got your back. You just start doing, and they be like,
yeah.
"Thank you, Lord. Let's go. We getting it today, Lord." Because when you're in
Yeah.
tune, you're in sync. It ain't no I need, Lord, I need. I declare, I decree. It's like that's cool. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
I know you with me. Let's rock.
Yeah.
How you doing today? Good morning, Holy Spirit. Not, hey, I need you. No, it's like, good morning.
Yeah.
You ready to roll? Let's go get it.
I remember the day so I mentioned this on I think one of the first episodes this season, but the day it was January 29th. So I was at a conference. It was the last day of the conference and I'm at the altar praying about I don't even I was no, I know what I was praying about. I was taking in each session and how it like applied to my life and like, okay, these things will help me if I want to grow and be distinct in this calling and these examples that the speaker used of how set apart some people were that like it was so they were so different, within so I'm taking in all of this and then God just starts talking to me and he starts revealing and saying what did he I'm gonna keep this brief. But he told me within that time with him that he was going to like answer so many prayers that he was it was like he was lining it up and showing it to me
Mm-hmm.
from like high school and then 20s and then like later 20s of like these like wild prayers of like dreaming
Yeah.
together and all this because I've been really hitting them up like what's up, like I thank you for this impact but this is not the impact we talked about, so what's up, Lord?
Mm-hmm.
And so he started like revealing to me and he had said that this was like I'm going to answer these prayers this year and I'm gonna start at 35. So it was so clear, like nobody could have given me a prophetic word like that and I not be like, I don't
Right.
know, something may happen. But it was the surety and this peace that came over. And I'm like, wow, like he just was so clear in talking to me that I'm like, why
Mm-hmm.
you ain't say this, months ago when I was trying to like
Mm-hmm.
ignore you, like I've been trying to get with you, like you gotten these words, like God he wants you to spend time with him so he could talk to you about stuff. And I'm like, he, he gonna say the same stuff, or like I'm a broken record at this point. But what I'm saying is so that night, a little after midnight is when I was like hit by a drunk driver, really bad accident and all that stuff. But over the months, every time, like I'm talking about sometimes daily, something would happen that would be lining up different things that even if I explain, I could not explain it in a different way. But all I could say was, I know that it's going to happen. Like I can't doubt it.
Yeah.
Like the past month has been a little mentally tough, but like I just can't doubt it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like I just know what he said, and then that helps to really, really go out the rest of the day and go out the rest of the week of, okay, we in month 6. Okay, well, you've done this much in these past few months. Okay, let me continue to pray that what you said, like, I know you're going to do it. So let me make sure I stay in line. Oh, I'm getting back out of a line, get back in line because I know what you said. And that has brought a different level of confidence of
Mm-hmm.
of what the future looks like, that those prayers, like God heard them, and that time matters. It really matters so much. So no, thank you. Thank you for saying that. So Eric,
Yes.
so all these things that you shared, and just it's been so good of the value and the things that you have learned and brought to the table and what you bring to other people, because we know at the end of the day it's to serve other people.
That's what
And
it's all about.
so for sure, and you do that like within your job and in the government, and as a creative, which we haven't really even talked about. Why are you single? Like what?
Why am
Yeah,
I single?
yeah, because I feel like when it comes to men and it comes like we're just
Mhm.
outnumbered. Okay. Yeah. And so
Y'all outnumber us,
that's what I'm okay. Yeah, I'm like,
right?
I'm looking like I'm saying something wrong.
Yeah,
But
I'm not single for lack of trying.
okay. I because like when you like typically see someone say like this, like it's already happened. It's more on the women's side where it's like it's slims picking. But I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
gonna ask him, why are you single? And I'm sure you've gotten this question before.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing that contributed to me that contributes to me not being married now um, is the last 2 or 3 years I've been doing a lot of work on me, and in my decision to be more vulnerable, I realized way more. Uh, I used to have a certain perspective of what um, of who I need to be with,
Mm,
and um, and now, especially given the pandemic and where a lot of people are right now, and the fact that a lot of people, women, are walking out a season of being about me. Um, I'm walking in a level of vulnerability and transparency, which I think are two different things with
yeah.
my life.
Hmm.
And
They are.
knowing that I'm bringing my whole self to this now, and there it's important that I find myself partnered with, yoked with, married to someone who um, embraces my humanity
Mm,
along with the value I bring. Because you say high value man, everybody has imperfections, you know.
yeah.
And also, I'm learning that the same thing that had contributed to me to being as successful I am today is something that gets on a lot of people's nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that because I'm not trying to marry everybody.
Mm.
One,
This guy wants to say he just put up his finger once.
just one. I'm not trying to marry everybody.
Right.
I want my person, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I'm believing it should be grace for that, you know. Um, because it's just we're all different, you know, and we are more different than we are alike, across the board. And I've grown in my capacity to extend grace and be understanding. And I'm trying not. I've done my best to not let that project
Mm-hmm.
onto someone else's capacity and give them the grace to grow in their understanding of self and who I am and what have you. Um, but I'm finding that I've reached a certain depth in my awareness of like even just the spiritual sense in my walk with God that makes me more set apart than others, further set apart than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and it's not a convictions thing. Um, but I really love God, man. And everybody don't love him that as much as they say they do. Even in that in that space, you know, I care less about money because I'm like, you know, I've had nothing. I've been on my ramen noodle diet before.
Mm-hmm.
But in that space in particular, I've got to a very healthy place and a very I think clear perspective of who Jesus is, who the Holy Spirit is, who God is, the prophetic. And so I've gone from, you know, mega church to apostolic to fivefold to all these different things, and I've just grown in an understanding of who He is and who He is to me. That I deeply desire to be understood and be able to not to be able to see eye to eye in that space, because that is the space. That's the number one space for
Mm.
me, like hands
Oh,
down.
that's good.
Because it impacts your perspective about family, your perspective about money, even your beliefs.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm 36, and he's 36. I don't know if I can. I'm like, do you know Jesus? I think you can. We can't just think like that, you know, when it comes to certain stuff. Like, I understand. I see the stats. Okay, blah, 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 blah. I'm not putting that weight on you, you know, for
Mm-hmm.
certain stuff around family and kids and all this. I don't understand that. Just lie to me. You know, I'm joking. But anyway, um, but I just think my perspective in that has been one of the biggest contributors in my realization of like, oh, Eric, like this ain't just what you do. This is who you are when it comes to certain stuff. You
Yeah.
know? And I just wish more people knew themselves that way and they can articulate it. And I've struggled to articulate it over a number of years. I'm like, dang. But now over the last 2, 3 years, especially the pandemic, I have this language and I'm like, man, you know, I know who I am and I can say who I am.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would say that's it. Um, but it's not for lack of trying because I be trying. I be trying, man. I try. I've tried. I try. Um, and I always thought I would be first. And all my homies say, man, we thought you'd be first. Now they getting married. They got 2 kids, 3 kids. And then it was like, we just knew you'll be first. And now, I mean, on June, I'm celebrating one of my closest friends from college. They were renewing their vows at 10 years. And I was like, bro. And we laugh and joke. I mean, like, Negro.
It's crazy.
You remember when you said, man, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Savage Life was a thing in 2007, 9.
You said what was the thing?
The Savage Life, you know, whatever that
Oh,
terminology
mm-hmm.
is now, you
Okay.
know, it's high girl summer. There was a women equivalent in two seven
For
eight
sure.
nine, whatever, and there was
Okay.
a guy equivalent to that,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I won't live in that life.
Mm-hmm.
I was like locked in, and but I guess they learn more in their from their failures and during that span than I did. Because I still ain't there.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, but
sometimes it's like who knows? I
mhm.
I remember well, old friends. So I have a niece who her child is will be born in July. Yeah, so she'll have her first child, and then my other niece just had her son in um November. Oh, this was before they started having kids, but they both got engaged and married, but now they both have kids. And I was so happy for them. And so of course people are like hitting me up like, I'm just checking if you're okay. Like I don't know why I wouldn't be happy for my family and the expansion of our family. Now, does it feel embarrassing? Heck yeah. Like that you have to say like, yeah, my nieces have gotten married and now I'm a great auntie. Like what is
Ooh.
that? It's just funny, you know what I mean? But also you can also celebrate and
Mhm.
love people and be happy for people without like you don't deserve that or anything like that. But I get you. Yeah. Time just be, I don't know,
Yep.
timing. I also like hate that phrase, but I just because of circumference, I feel like I'm just saying that more of like math be mathing or like
Math be mathing.
adulting be oh okay.
Life be
It'll go
lifing.
away.
Adult to be adulting.
But we all know what it means. It
We all
means
know what it
okay.
means. Hmm.
Okay. So my last couple questions, and again, if you have any questions, feel free. What is something of value that you can leave with single women?
Sometimes of value I can leave with single women.
Mm-hmm.
You're not for everybody.
Mm,
You're not. And the same way that men need to be more focused on, I gleaned that from my being raised for all these women. Men need to be on focus, not more focused on not entertaining everybody that step into their front yard.
mm.
And neither you're right, y'all are right. Like, but and yes, yep, yes, and it might make you feel isolated and make you feel like your journey of singleness will never end. Yes, and we out here.
Mm. That part, like,
Yes, and we out here. And
I'm
so
just
I
like
have to get more
friends.
creative. I had to get more
Hmm.
creative, and so do you.
Mm,
Because especially after the pandemic, where everybody came into this new awareness of what they really like, and now people are way more isolated than ever.
yeah.
And so I'm gonna go by myself. I'm gonna go play golf
Mm,
by myself, and if I get paired up, it's very random. I want to play golf the other week by myself. I'm as a single, one person. Play solo, and what they do is they don't like one person goes down certain golf courses, and so they'll pair you up, right? End up getting paired up. Um, what I say, yeah, it's a guy that's plus one. Yep. Da, 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 da. All right, cool. I think it's a guy and a lady. All right. Older guy. The lady was his daughter. Great, great thing. He said, oh man, I love for us to connect. And and me and his daughter's talking. I don't like her. I don't like her, But at the end of the day, like get out there, do it, because you never know.
mm,
Because it could have been something there. But it wasn't. I mean,
mm,
I'm not, but go out and continue doing it. And also, you can do it by yourself because
yeah.
most dudes ain't gonna roll up on a table full of girls. You should go by yourself sometime
Mm, yeah.
or with a smaller group. Brunch with your
Right.
homegirl, not all your homegirls.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer. If it's a group of eight, split up into four tables of two or
Oh
something.
my
I'm
gosh.
joking, but it's a very
But I get what
intimidating.
you're
You know what
saying.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you gonna
But like it'll be like, no, if you really confident, then you'll come up to me and you'll talk. Like
that
guys
sound
don't,
nice.
don't enjoy, nobody enjoys being rejected, but it's just
Mhm.
like, no, you'll do it anyway.
Yeah. But keep your head on a swivel because you never know. Just
I
I was at
will
a grocery store
say,
the other day. This is another example. I was the grocery store another day. I'll pull in the parking lot. I see this girl return her cart. This was another day. This was a few months ago. I see this girl return walk into her car. I was like, okay, because I'm out here. I'm a little white in the town. I don't see no black people in my grocery store. My hair's here.
Okay.
And so she returned her cart, and I was like, all right, and I was like, I said, ma'am, I get that cart for you. It's completely missed. She completely missed like this. Her, I was like, oh, no, never mind. I can't. If I can't get a smile, if you're not happy, my top two things I'm looking for are kindness and gentleness. If you got smiling when somebody say I'm gonna get a car for you, I can't do it.
She could have been in just like grocery
She could have
mode and
been.
just not.
She could have
I mean, it's
been.
a miss, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a miss. But we gotta. That's it. Be available.
But I think it's encouraging for anyone listening. You mentioned earlier that like even your friend circle, married and single, because like it's not common, or maybe it is common because you're a guy and you're around. Clearly, you know how guys thinking you're around them more, but from my experience, like it hasn't been as common that a group of like good guys. Like I have really, really good best friends that are guys, and none of them can help me because all of their friends are like, I would never recommend them to you. But to hear you say that like you have that, just like women have that, is good to know that. And that, yeah, that's applauded. And then for like women, yo, like, so where your friends at? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
hands down, it's harder for dudes because once, like my guy friends, once they got married, they stopped making female friends, so they're not meeting girls,
yeah,
and the only girls they meeting is through their wife, and
right.
most women, most of their wives and most of their homegirls are married, or what have you, and so it's just very hard for that connection to happen just when you're, especially if you're rocking with people that got healthy marriages and they are just making friends and befriending. They got brothers and sisters in Christ that are outside of the coloring outside
Yeah.
of the lines,
Yeah.
and so it's harder, but but it's interesting, man. These are interesting times.
hmm
But
So what is something that a value that you would say, and you kind of said this, so if it's the same thing, you don't have to repeat it again. Something that you would say of value to single men.
you got to make space for what you want, man. And that's particularly targeted to the guys that are working on themselves, and figuring that out. Um, you still got to make space for what you really want to walk into your life, because especially when you're talking about singleness and I want to be single, a woman is going to take up space. She's going to take up capacity. And I don't mean that in a superficial, like, man, no, I'm talking about in a very practical sense. If there is no room for her,
Hmm.
she not stand. If she can't fit, she not stand.
Hmm.
Like, and you got to be at a certain place emotionally, mentally, or what have you, because there's an emotional capacity that's attached to that you can't measure, that women are way better at,
Hmm.
and naturally live in this space, and that is going to make you uncomfortable. It's going to make us uncomfortable. But if you're not, if in all you're getting better, if you're not getting to a deeper or higher place of emotional intelligence, it's going to shortchange you when it
Hmm.
comes to your emotional availability and the people you meet, and for I'm not going to say that, but I was about to say in your options. That's not good. That's not a good word. The connotations on having options, it's just not, but anyway.
Okay.
But in your capacity to entertain, women that actually add to your life as much as
hmm
you would have them. But I think we as men, we need to be carriers of vision, and if a woman and women are carriers of wisdom, and have the capacity, have a favor that's attached to them, and have the capacity to incubate and grow whatever you put, being in a practical sense, or reproductive sense, or spiritual sense.
Mhm.
But when you partner with somebody, and I'm at a place where I experienced that even through my dating relationships and girlfriends, because I I'm not married, and I've dated women who are single, but there's a grace to being a wife that comes long before you get a ring on your finger, and there's a grace of being a husband that comes long before you propose somebody and you put a ring on your finger too.
Mhm.
And so you see an NBA star, he's not drafted yet, but he's an NBA player
Mm.
long before he gets the title and gets drafted.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so if you ain't doing 2 days like Wembenyama, like when it comes to your personal professional life and your emotional intelligence stuff, like, if you ain't out here practicing twice a day, you're not doing this, you're not diligent, you're not doing this, you cannot hit a switch and keep up,
Mm.
because the opportunity will break you.
Wow.
It will break you. And even in a spiritual sense, some people are still single because the Lord said he will never put anything on you that you can't bear.
Oh, like the Lord did this.
No, I made that up. But in general, you're not ready. If you're not ready, then you're just not ready.
Mhm.
And there's a grace that's extended to people to get it together, to be able to operate. And it depends on who you marry, who you connected to. But I tell you, man, I've seen so many failures in marriages. Golly, I've seen so many 2-year marriages as I've just kind of been in ministry and been around, had these not homeboys, but like, I
Yeah.
missed it. They call it the Great Recession, the Great Engagement. I missed the great. I mean, I didn't partake in the Great Engagement
Oh,
of
like the 23, the like fresh out of college. Is that what you're
the
talking about?
the 2000 the 2009 10 to 2013, that just like the boom 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 boom. I missed the
Mhm.
wave. And but a lot of people, a lot of those relationships are not standing now.
Mm.
They're not. And a lot of those had cracks in their foundations, and the pandemic dealt the death blow
Mm.
of having to actually spend time with one another.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, and I had a homie that didn't make it out. It's like, it wasn't that we grew apart. We got to know each ourselves more
Mm.
through this pandemic, of sitting with ourselves and realize this is a mutual decision. Like, we both messed up.
Mm.
Yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
and so yeah, it's a healthy little split. We're
Yeah.
good. We wish each other the best. We just know we're not each other's person. Like, I think we always knew, but they got caught up in the wave.
Yeah. Mm. No, that's
So,
good. Well, Eric,
but
thank
that's
you
my
so
encouragement.
much. This is like, I hope that people are like listening and taking it in and reflecting,
Yeah,
and even if, something may not apply, but there's so many things I
yeah,
think that are really great nuggets and things to say, like, apply. And then even to like pray for if that's something like that's missing, like in a relationship that already say exists, or it's missing just period in how you think.
yeah,
But it's like you want that, but you don't know how to actually articulate what it is that you're looking for, and to know also what um a person's mindset is that thinks that way already. So thank you.
hmm
Any questions or any things that you want to share before we close?
Um, you know, there's a general the scripture that we all have heard and recanted and spoke over our lives, that God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we can ask or think. I just really think that we um look at that the unimaginable is a real thing. Um,
Mm.
and it's not just the big glorious, like, oh my God, the Lord did this. even the unimaginable outside of your thinking or your understanding. It's just stuff just simply outside of it.
Mhm.
And so it's important that we continue to be in tune with the Holy Spirit so that we can allow the small things, adjustments that have major impacts on our lives. Like, man, maybe you should have this conversation with this person. Maybe you should have this, and maybe
Yeah.
you should help your manager in this way.
Mm.
It's, to me, the most that I've seen an exponential increase in the quality of my life, not in the God did this thing on 1000, but this is like just on the fringes of my understanding. There's this nugget, this
Mm.
thing. And I've seen the ripple effect of those little things completely change my life, change my prayer life and the things I pray for. And I remember 3 years ago, um, I said, golly, when this was during the pandemic, when the student loan stuff was all going crazy, and I was looking at my student loans because I got 2.5 degrees. I'm working on another one, and I'm like, Lord, you know, if I can have $200,000 student loans, why is my salary not $200,000? God, the math ain't nothing.
Mhm.
Like, I'm gonna need for you to move on this thing
Mhm.
because I'm looking at this stuff, and this is a receipt for my investment.
Mhm.
And so, if this is the receipt, if this is the price I should be getting, and in that 3 years, I've seen everything move and get that prayer answered. And I'm like,
Hmm.
golly, and we were talking about this before we even went online. I was like, am I really in this place or not?
Yeah.
Or am I just
So
passing through?
cool.
Is this an Ev?
Mm.
Is this an Ev? Is this an Ev, or is this a new norm
Mhm.
type
I
thing?
believe it's a new norm for
And
you.
so I'm believing it's a
Yeah.
new norm. Like,
Mhm.
but you have to move accordingly because
That's true.
you have to, the thing that gets you there is the thing that's going to keep you in that space. And so you can't let off.
Mm.
When you hit a spot, you got to break through and turn that thing into your new cruising altitude. And I
Mm.
think we have to move in the understanding that he will perform.
Mm.
He will, like, and you think he's trying to change your life, but I know a God that is so mighty, so powerful, so omniscient that he will slow the whole world down when I don't have the capacity to speed up.
Yeah.
And so you're looking for him to move on you, but how do
Mm.
you know he's not moving everything else?
Right.
And so that thing, like, oh man, the opportunity escaped me. How you know?
Mm.
You don't, but I know that he'll move every doggone thing in the world for me, and it'll
Mm.
all work in the favor of everybody around me, and still
Yeah.
bless me. It ain't to put me around, put everybody. No, no, no. Everybody will be blessed too, but and so that's two way this acceleration. I'm like, Lord, accelerate me. Yeah, how he decelerate the whole world, put the whole world on lockdown, put the whole world on free. You know what I'm saying? For you to have the opportunity to incubate
Yeah.
what you have in you and launch for in a way that is natural, that gets you to a place to where you can operate at a whole new level. And I think that is the thing that we have to know about him, man. Like, I've seen him move. Golly, like, I can't even say how he moved,
Mm.
without, like, y'all, if y'all knew,
Mm.
and he will do it despite you,
Yeah.
your
For
preparedness
sure. For sure.
and all your flaws. He'll do it despite you,
Yeah.
but you got to be ready to steward it.
Yeah.
Because if not, then it's going to be temporary, and you're just
Mm.
going to be passing through. But
Mm.
that would be the thing if I were to say anything at all. It's
Mhm.
just know that he got you. Just know it, you know,
Yeah.
and that
Mm.
everything you put out into the world is a seed. Just just keep sowing,
Keep sewing.
That's it.
Eric, thank you so much for sharing what
Mhm.
you've shared and being vulnerable. And um, it's very much appreciated by me. And I hope that people will be blessed. And it's been fun. It's cool to just get a window into like your life outside of Instagram.
Thank you.
um, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think
Okay. And so, okay, where can people find you and connect with you?
you can connect with me. I think my camera went to sleep.
It's okay.
There we go. You can connect with me on Instagram, the Marsh Method. TheMethod and the Marsh Method. TheMarshMethod.
Okay.
And that is me on Instagram. Feel free to reach
Okay.
out. Have any questions? I'm here to
Yeah.
help, support in any way I can.
Any upcoming things that you're working on?
Um, I am going to be kindling my podcasting venture. You
Pew,
can
pew, pew.
pyong, 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 as God goes in greatness. Um, podcast was hosted by myself. Now that I took a sabbatical, but I'm in a much better space to which I feel like I can pour and help and have healthy conversations about a lot of the things that to me were just an idea, but now I'm walking in the reality of when it comes to balancing those different things. Yeah. And so you can check out the episodes that already exist on Spotify. It's like 6 of them.
Yes.
The last episode was the one that made me realize I was not in a healthy space, and it's called Mental Wealth.
Hmm.
And once I did that podcast, and that 1.5 hour conversation was like, Eric, you need to take a break because
Hmm.
you can't add this to everything you already have going. So,
Yeah.
but that's it.
Okay.
Where I'm at.
And so your podcast, you said God,
God
greatness,
goals,
goals,
God
and
goals, God goals and greatness.
yes. I can't wait to hear it. From what you shared about it, I think it's going to be really dope and really, really good and helpful. And yeah, you'll just continue to just share how dope you are. So thank you all so much for joining us today on this episode with Eric. I'm not sure what I'm gonna quite call it yet on the value map, but we'll figure it out. But thank you. You can subscribe. You at Apple Podcasts with Awkward Single Life podcast or follow on Spotify. I would love for you to comment. You can DM on Instagram at Awkward Single Life Podcast. If you have any more questions or specifically for Eric and you want to ask and you didn't hit him up, like you can go to there, or any topics and things you can email at awkwardsinglelife@gmail.com. Thank you, Eric, again, and
You're
bye.
welcome.